for tuning into this discussion today with BCS on insights and trends within the tech sector. We're focusing specifically in this session on trends in employment and recruitment. So given the current circumstances, this is obviously a difficult time for graduates and job seekers. So we wanted to provide a little bit of insight into the market and just some tips really on how we can help you move forward in your career during these early stages. So I'm joined today by Kelvin Hewett, who is the Global Head of Client Engagement and Solutions at Opus. And he's going to provide some of the key insights for us today. Kelvin, do you want to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about what you do?
Of course I will. It's a very grand job title, Olivia. It's a bit OTT, isn't it? So what do I do? So I put in place solutions for our customers, recruitment solutions. Some of those can be relatively small where they look to hire 5 to 10 people, and some of them can be a lot bigger. So we're working with some companies at the moment that are looking to scale at speed. One particular company that's looking to hire 49 people in 6 months. So as you can imagine, the tech market is moving really, really quickly, and there's lots of positive stuff that we'll sort of cover off, I'm sure, in this discussion.
Brilliant, thanks very much. And so we've just got really 3 main questions to cover today. And the first one is around those initial stages of job hunting and job applications. And it's about making an impact during the recruitment process. So if you have any insight on what the top kind of things recruiters are looking for during the application and interview process, it would be great to hear those.
Absolutely. So I think positive stuff, just to say really, is that if you look at the Tech Nation report in the last couple of months, job advertisements have increased in the tech world by 36%. So obviously, if you're a candidate and you're in that space, there's a relatively a lot of competition. So how do you stand out from the crowd? So there's some basic things here, and I don't mean them to come across as, should we say, condescending. So forgive me if they do, but I'm hoping that it will just give an insight into everything that you need to consider. So I think from the first instance, when you're sending through a CV, making sure that the spelling and the grammar is on point, making sure that the accuracy of the information in the CV is on point, refining it so that it's not too long, 2 to 3 pages is probably the maximum. If you're using a recruiter, choose them wisely because they're representing you in the marketplace. So it's really important that you don't spray and pray that CV as such. What you don't want to do is send that out to too many recruiters, and it may perhaps lands on a client's desk twice, because that shows that, I suppose, there's lack of clarity and lack of thought in how you're approaching the market. Professional social media profiles is a real biggie. I think you've got to be really, really careful what photographs you're actually putting out there on social media. And actually, there's an app at the moment called Your Social Footprint, which is quite interesting, which actually gives you a customized dashboard and a social score. So it looks at your social character, it looks at your personal impression, it looks how you're perceived in social media. And that's really quite interesting because obviously a few years ago you probably wouldn't have considered that. Preparation, prepare for interview. Network. If you're in tech, what meetups are you attending? Employers want people who are passionate about what they do. And I think this type of activity shows that you're passionate. If you're a creative, you might want to consider a video CV. And if you're technical, you might want to consider creating profiles on GitHub or Stack Overflow. And then as a developer, do you share? Do you collaborate with others? Do you give back? I was in the car this morning and I was dropping my kids to school, and there was I suppose you would say it was some awareness around Mental Health Week, which is coming up. But are you kind? Are you a nice person? Are you does that come across in when you're talking to people that are interviewing you, really? Because I think it's really important. And have you got a web page? I mean, my 14-year-old son is an artist, but he has a web page. Easy to do with wik.com. So again, these would probably be the main things to make you stand out.
Thank you. And as well as the sort of capabilities around the professional side of the role and the programming and showcasing your work. Do you think there's a space as well for highlighting things like volunteering experience and anything you've done kind of extra for the community or anything like that?
100%. I mean, this comes into this whole piece around your social character. You know, what do you do in the background? You know, do you volunteer? Do you give back? Have you helped at a local school? Have you done anything in your community that's giving back? I think, obviously, with COVID, what has come out, I think, as real positive things is that, as people, we've had to be show much more empathy, and actually learn to work together and learn to help each other out. There's been a number of LinkedIn campaigns where people have been, I don't want to say pressurized, it's the right thing to do, but there has been a lot of comment around like and sharing things, to push it out to a further network. So that, on your point there, yeah, absolutely. Employers want, you want a nice person, you want somebody who is giving something back, who does care about, people around them, that is interested and wants to do the right thing. I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. And then I guess, given a lot of roles are based remotely at the moment and perhaps, potentially going forwards for quite a while as well, priorities of organisations are also shifting. And so what are the main kind of qualities and characteristics that employers really need from their candidates right now?
I think this is an interesting point, because I think sometimes there's quite a lot of emphasis on what does the employer want, and I think it should be a collaboration. I think the whole idea of perhaps working for a company and it's a subservient world is not a nice place. You wouldn't want to go to a company where there wasn't a sort of level pecking. So I think very much it's vice versa. What do we need from each other? But to answer your question, obviously, clear communication skills, very, very important. Ability to collaborate, be open to new ideas, be open to potentially upskilling. Don't sit yourself in a box. I don't think, the days now where you do a job, you do that job for life are gone. You potentially might want to consider reskilling or retraining 3 or 4 different times. Solid tech and digital skills, obviously. We have a big gap in the market at the moment for very solid tech, digital development skills. Be adaptable, be flexible, have leadership skills, take control of a situation, be assertive without being bullish. I don't think people like people who are bullish. And as I said, be kind, be caring, look out for your colleagues. I think there's a lot more awareness around mental health now, and that's a very good thing. There was always, I think, I've been working for quite a while now, and there was always a pressure maybe to stay in the office too long, take too much on your plate. I think now there's an awareness to actually get a really good work-life balance, and to be that person that actually looks out for your colleagues is very important. But I do think, if you're looking for a job, this has to be reciprocal. It's very important that it's a two-way thing.
Yeah, definitely. And that partly comes down to, doing your research as to the organisations that you are potentially applying to and looking at your values and the culture of the organisation and seeing whether that's a good fit as well, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I think that's really, really important. Have a look at the mission, the vision, the value of the company. Have a look at their culture. Have a look at their social media footprint, and actually dig under the surface and challenge, is their money where their mouth is? So are they just spouting this stuff off because they think it's a great thing to say because it's the right thing to say, or are they actually doing it? And I think that's the important bit. Don't be afraid at interview stage to actually challenge and ask some questions around that, and get them to give you some examples.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And then the final point really is around the trends in tech recruitment. So are there areas of the tech sector which are really flourishing at the moment? Any emerging sectors? How has COVID kind of impacted the industry, and examples of that kind of thing, really? Yeah,
so you've got 2 questions there. I think so trends in recruitment, I think if you're working in this space, it's important that you keep up to speed. So, look at things like PwC, they comment quite a lot, they release a lot of reports. Tech Nation is very good as well. A lot of their reports come out which will give you an overview of what's emerging, what's hot at the moment. So to answer your question, if you look at, so Warren Tucker, who's a partner at PwC, recently come out and said that 3 main areas for them that as a business they're looking at and what they've seen in the market. So artificial intelligence, or AI, so particularly things around face recognition, which help with financial fraud detection, virtual assistants on smartphones, video and driver support in vehicles, so things like lane alert, when you're driving your car and it gives you a lane alert because you moved over, which is quite interesting. Virtual reality and augmented reality, so this whole idea of computer generated simulation, and then the whole idea of using technology to superimpose a computer generated image on a user's view of the world. So if we look at things like gaming and retail, so I was reading a report actually last night which was suggesting that the aim of retail is to actually build a virtual store where a customer could go in and choose products. It's pretty crazy, hey? So I think, these are the areas they're expanding. Developers, of course, anyone and everyone wants, good developers at the moment that would fit into any of those areas. So certainly they're your areas which are booming and growing. Impact on your second question. So yeah, sadly there have been real winners and losers in this situation, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. I think companies that have struggled, or should we say industries that have struggled, airlines, holiday companies, retail, but retail companies that haven't adapted online as a whole. If you think of the case study of Kodak as a company, Kodak went bust eventually because they didn't move into the digital space, and some of these companies are in a similar situation. So Debenhams, Boots, they didn't move online quick enough, and now sadly they're suffering. TUI, restaurants, of course, because we haven't been able to go to restaurants, they've struggled. Airlines like Virgin, train companies, sadly they're the ones that have really struggled. Winners, and they've won big style, haven't they? E-commerce markets, Amazon. I mean, crikey, are Amazon taking over the world? I think it feels like it, right? Ocado, pharmaceutical companies are obviously helping, doing the right thing with COVID, and obviously trying to test and develop new drugs. Logistics and delivery. I mean, again, Amazon done very well in that space because obviously they're delivering everything. And ironic, you and I sitting on one, but video conferencing, right? How many different video conferencing apps are there? There's so many. But again, they've done really well. Entertainment, streaming, and then there's a couple that were sort of quite interesting out of the blue. So things like Peloton. Again, they've taken that whole experience online and made the most of a dreadful situation. So there you go. That gives you an overview.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks, Kelvin. And I think everyone watching today has kind of learned a little bit more about what's kind of going on in the space and gained some practical tips that they can use as well. So that's really helpful. Thanks very much for your insight then.
No problem at all. I mean, I think that the UK is a good place to be, right? It's got the most tech, it's got more tech unicorns in the UK than in Europe. So more than France, more than Germany, more than the Netherlands. So if you're in this space, and you are looking for a role and you're starting to panic a little bit, don't panic. Just keep a clear head and keep doing the right thing, applying for roles, putting yourself in a good position, because hopefully, it'll turn around for you.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks very much.
No problem at all.